Here is my November wrap-up. I read 10 books in November, and I probably DNF'd about 5 books because I do DNF a lot of books. If I'm not feeling it, I just move on to the next one. I have so many books that I want to read. One of the books that I did read this month was The First Conspiracy, The Plot to Kill George Washington by Brad Meltzer. That was a pretty good book. It was a little bit longer than I think the story called for, but overall I learned a lot of things about George Washington and the Revolutionary War that I didn't know. So that was worth it. And then from Red Coats to Red Shirts, I read Red Shirts by John Scalzi, which I love because I love Star Trek. If you don't love Star Trek, you might not like it as much because it is about the red shirts who, when they go on away missions, they get killed, and it's just a part of the Star Trek world. So, but if you like Galaxy Quest and things like that, or books that break the fourth wall, then you might like Red Shirts. I also read a book by a friend of mine. It was a motorcycle romance called Mute by M.L. Nystrom. And if you like motorcycle romances, you might want to try that series. It's the Dragon Runner series. But you kind of have to know what you're getting into with motorcycle romance. Another book that I got was a free novella, The Thief and the Lucky Boy. And that one is by J. Gabriel Gates. And it was a good novella. I thought the world building was really good. I liked the idea of the characters and the luck gods, and they relate to suits of cards like the hearts and the diamonds, and so that was fun. And then I read one of the best books that I read this month, which was Remarkably Bright Creatures. I love books about octopuses. Probably The Soul of an Octopus by Cy Montgomery is one of my all-time favorite books. It's probably a 6-star read for me, and Remarkably Bright Creatures was a 5-star read. I love The Octopus Teacher on Netflix. So anything about an octopus, I'm going to enjoy. So Remarkably Bright Creatures is a wonderful story. I also read a young adult book called Under the Surface, and I was really, really, really looking forward to this book. And I think I went into it under the assumption that it was a romantic adventure. And so when the horror elements started, which were a little later in the book, it kind of threw me off, and I wanted to throw the book across the room. So that part, I think just because my expectations weren't there for it to be a horror book, made it more of a not what I was expecting. But it is young adult, so I don't go into Forever 21 and say, oh, you don't have any clothes for me, so I'm going to give you a bad rating. No, young adult, middle grade, high school students will love this book, and it has the most beautiful cover. I love the cover so much. All Systems Red, the Murderbot series by Martha Wells. It's like the Wild Robot, but for adults, and I love the Wild Robot. And I loved the Murderbot. It was very, very short. I'm going to read some more in that series because it was fun. It was interesting. I love the world building. I love the science fiction. So All Systems Red was a great read. I read Blood Sisters by Vanessa Lilly, and that was, she's an Indigenous author. And this was a missing and murdered Indigenous women's story as well. Had a lot of aspects of that. And so it really shined a light on some needed areas while maintaining this thriller mystery format. And then I read a middle grade book. It was the second in the series of the Icarus Chronicles, and it is homebound, and it is by John David Anderson. So the first one was Stowaway, and it is so much fun. It is like Guardians of the Galaxy. It's just a fun adventure. And it says a lot about our planet and the way we use our resources as well, so it does have an underlying message to it, but I really enjoyed it. And that's my November wrap-up. Tell me if you've read any of these.